G'day everybody, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today I have to lead with an apology about how long it's taken for me to get to this second video. This video is the second in my three-part series on the BACCH SP ADIO. So in this video, we will be talking about the unit itself, its installation into my system. I'll step you through everything that's going on in the back of the unit. In this particular unit, it was a fully optioned unit. It's a Mark III or a Series 3, which I think is still a current series in the ADIO. And so it's the second from the top, below the Grand. So in this video, we go through that back panel and all of its options and what's actually there. You'll see all that. We'll then go through the iPad, which is essentially the remote control that goes through all the pages of setup and what have you. We'll walk through that. It's a fairly lengthy video, but there is a lot here to cover. This is a very complex unit. So we're going to talk about that. And then we are going to, there'll be a part 3 of this series, which will be something that I will shoot live. This is what you're about to see is video that I shot back when I had the unit, which would be about June, July last year. So I've been sitting on this for a while, and because I've really been struggling to work out how the heck I'm actually going to put this review together. In between all of this, and I paused on this series, and I did mention to you on the channel that I was going to do that because there was the opportunity for me to get a BACCH for Mac, to have that here in the room with all the current features, including the ORC, which this ADIO unit did not have. And so this unit I'll be talking in my final thoughts video, and I won't go into detail about that at this point, about the crosstalk cancellation, you know, all of the things that are actually still current in the units as they are now. But I cannot talk about the in-ear room correction software because it was at that point not available in those units. It was only available at that point in the BACCH for Mac. So there was an opportunity for me to have a BACCH for Mac here. Upon mutual agreement, that now will not be happening. Hence, that is why I am pressing on with this video and why I'm apologizing to you, because it has been a long time coming, but I've been waiting and hoping that we may be able to work something out with this BACCH for Mac. As it turns out, that is no longer an option. So I will not be receiving the BACCH for Mac, so I will not be able to talk to you guys about that. If any of you out there do have one and you'd like me to review it, you can reach out to me in the comments below this video, and I'll give you my email address and we can have a conversation and see if we can't make it happen. I am interested in having a listen to the current version with the ORC software in it, and talking to you guys about that, because that is the current unit as it is. My review is somewhat dated now due to the fact that the unit that I had here was not, or did not have the ORC software installed in it at that point. So we'll take that into account. I won't go into any more detail around why I'm not getting the BACCH for Mac. It just isn't happening. Unfortunately for you guys, I will not have it here unless somebody else has got one and they will lend it to me to review here on the channel. So anyway, if there is somebody out there that is prepared to do that, then reach out to me. I am open to the prospect of having a current version of this in my room to be able to talk to you further about it, but that won't be happening at this point. So we'll just press on with the review as it stands. I will talk to you. I compiled 13 pages of notes over about 3 and a bit weeks that I had the ADIO here in my system. I talked to you about the way it was set up. I actually mentioned Edgar in the video that you're about to see, and I'll go into more detail about that process in my final thoughts video as well. And we'll flesh this thing out. We'll talk about it. One thing you get from me on this channel, one thing you will always get from me on this channel, is my honest, uncensored opinion on things. I am not here to blow hot air up anyone's rear end. I am not here to fluff products up and make them something they're not. What you'll get from me, and that is my absolute promise to you, is my absolute honest opinion on something. I have had 40 years in this industry in all manner of different areas in it, from selling high-end audio to being a sound engineer, both tracking, mastering, and live mixing. I have also been a consumer of high-end audio, as you know, as you see in this room, for a long, long time. I worked in a hi-fi shop when I was 15 years old building flat-pack stereo cabinets. So I go back that far. And I am 54 years old now, so you do the math. I've been doing this for a long, long time in one form or another. I have developed a lot of knowledge over those years. I've listened to a lot of product. So I have a fairly decent understanding about product on the marketplace, and I promise you will only get my honest opinion about it. That's what this channel will always be about. It is not a overproduced channel. I don't ever want that to be. I would rather spend my time not giving you a polished up, produced up, great to look at channel. I'd rather spend my time sitting down, taking notes on components that come into my room for review, so I can give you my honest opinion. Because when you come to this channel, you're coming to this channel because you want to hear my opinion with my experience. And I promise you, forevermore, and what you've all seen in the past, is my honest, unabashed opinion about the products that come into this room. So let's go on. Let's have a look at this setup video. It is a decent length video. I apologize for that, but there was a lot to cover, and I think you're probably going to want to see the whole process of it. And then we will talk in the next video about my final thoughts on the BACCH SP ADIO. So sit back, enjoy the video, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now. Okay, everybody, here is the back of the unit. Now, this unit is, as you can see, essentially loaded with every single option that is available through the boards that connect into the back of the chassis of the unit. And yeah, look, it's pretty jam-packed back here. So let's just go through everything that's on here and how the things that are on here work. So on your digital input side, you've got a coax through SPDIF here. So these are digital inputs. You've got USB through Type B there. So here is this is the clock input. So this is a digital word clock input on a BNC connector. This is for slaving the BACCH SP to an external clock. So this requires the clock source on the advanced page, which I'll go into later, being set to digital in. So that is what the BNC connector is there. So that takes care of our digital inputs. Okay, so now let's talk in a little bit more detail about the analog input and output board, which is this section here. So if we start up here, we have these are analog outputs. So they are balanced stereo analog outputs on XLR connectors. These are for line level analog inputs to preamplifiers, amplifiers or powered speakers through here. So that's what they are. Now, so next to them we have analog output 2. So these are balanced stereo analog audio outputs on TRS connectors for line level analog inputs to preamplifiers, amplifiers and powered speakers again. And I'll explain how these are activated on the iPads, on the input-output page on the iPad later on again. And then next to them over here, we have analog outputs on unbalanced. And again, same sort of deal there for line-level analog inputs and to preamplifiers, amps and powered speakers. So they're all your analog inputs. So you've got 1, 2, 3 analog inputs here. And then below here we have the outputs. So if we're talking about outputs, we're on balanced analog outputs here. These are for line level analog sources. So for instance, turntables, tape players, etc. Anything analog input, that's where they go. So you can do that on balanced XLR cables. You can do them on TRS connectors here as analog input 2, or on RCA connectors here as analog input 3. So all that's pretty self-explanatory. Your outputs here and your inputs there. And I'll go through what you can do with these, because there is some very tricky things that can be done in here later on that I can talk to you about on the iPad page that controls all of this. Okay, so next over here on the next board, we have digital outputs. So we have digital outputs on SPDIF here. So single RCA connector running as a SPDIF. We've got a Toslink connector here, and we've also got the clock on BNC. So this particular one here is a clock output. So it's a digital word clock output on a BNC connector that's used through the BACCH internal clock as a master clock. So that's what that connector can be used for. And again, we'll go into more detail about how all this works as we go further along into the explanations around all of this after we describe what they are. So the next one down underneath there is the headphone output. So there's a stereo headphone output on a 1/4 inch TRS connector right there, as are all of these. So over here next we have the power section side of the unit. So we've got obviously an IEC connector here for the power. We have a switchable voltage between 230 volts and 110 volts. So that can be adjusted there, and so obviously you'd want to make sure that you're on the correct voltage for your country, and that is switchable here. And then there's a slow burn 2 amp fuse here, a 250 volt slow blow fuse in place in there. So obviously that is the power side of things. Then over here next to that we have the network connector. So you would be plugging, as I explained earlier on, your RJ45 connector into here, and you would so it's a Cat5e connector or Cat5e protocol on RJ45. So underneath the network connector we have the head tracking USB inputs. So we have a pair of these here. They're on Type A USB connectors, and one's for an IR camera and the other one's for a webcam. So you can only one of these can be selected and plugged in at a time, but you've got both options there available to you as well. So as you can see, there's a heck of a lot on the back of this unit. Pretty much everything you could want to have to facilitate this unit is here. And on one of these fully loaded options, which this is, and we'll go through the next part of this tutorial. We'll go through the iPad pages, and we'll talk about what each of those pages do and how you can adjust this unit and get it all to work correctly in your system. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the BACCH SP ADIO, and I want to talk to you about the iPad which I have here with the screens and the setup of the unit after you've got it wired up into your system. It's probably best to just go through this. I'll turn the camera around and face it down at the iPad so you guys can see exactly what I'm pushing, and I'll explain the bits and pieces that I have learnt. Now I had about an hour and a half meeting with Edgar, the inventor of this machine. Edgar's been amazingly generous with his time. It's probably worth also mentioning that when I first got the unit into the room here and I was setting it up, working off the manual which I downloaded and you know, just some of the knowledge that I had as to essentially how I could make it work, and I tried a few different ways of wiring it into the system, which I spoke to you about in the last video about all the different options that there are on the back of the unit. And I sent Edgar an email, and Edgar actually, whilst on holidays in the south of France, was happy enough to get online one morning and literally hook into my system and configure the unit in. And the man was on holidays, for goodness sake. So extremely generous with his time, and couldn't be happier with the service that Edgar has given me as a reviewer of this unit. And I'm just very impressed with that level. And then we followed that up with a 90-minute conversation on the phone from New Jersey when he was back in his office. We literally went through all of the pages on the iPad here, and we had a good conversation, on many topics. And I want to now use my knowledge, the information that I garnered from Edgar, to essentially give you a bit of a tutorial about what the basics of what's on this. Now, Edgar is the man that you will all do a run through with if you purchase one of these units. I'm learning all the time about the complexity of this unit, what it can do. There's a section of this that is not yet ready to be essentially, it's a download that's able to be downloaded into the unit, which is the in-ear room correction software. I can't talk about that in this review sample. It has literally every other option in it, but the ORC in-ear room correction software is not yet ready to download it. So I can only talk about the crosstalk cancellation software, and I'll be going into more details about that. This is a bit of a first for Australia, and so I'm literally going through it. I'm learning as I go. There may be things I miss in this, but I'm doing my very best. I'm going to give you some of the basics that I remember from our telephone conversation a few days ago. But it really is, there's a lot in this, a lot to get your head around. I'll turn the camera around now and we'll go through the pages on the iPad so that you can get a bit of an idea and a feel for what you get when you buy one of these machines. On this page, it gives you all the inputs that you can use on the machine, and the output configuration down this side. So you have a digital in output, and obviously when you press on the button and it says digital in, when the light beside it lights up, it means that the communication from the iPad to the BACCH has been made, and you know that the connection's been made across there. So digital in will be SPDIF and those items on the back of the unit, which you saw in the previous video. You've got USB in here, which is again in that digital input realm on that board. And then then the next one down is AN in, so analog in XLR. So you've got we saw that again on the back of the unit. So please refer to the previous video, and you'll see what I'm talking about there. The next one, which is analog in on TRS. Now they are the phone jack connectors. Now there's a reason for why there are 3 analog inputs here, and that will come to in the next few pages. And then the third analog input is through RCA. Okay, so they are the 3 analog inputs, as you can see there. So the next one down from there, and this is the way my machine is configured, is through the streaming app. So what Edgar has done is essentially using HQ Player to be able to use Rune. Now you can see in the box there, if we have a look, you can see where it says HQ Player and then underneath Rune in brackets. Now you can see that. So you also have the internal memory in the units, and then over here you have the UPnP streaming option as well. There's 3 different options there. We obviously have it set for HQ Player through Rune, because this machine is talking to my MPT8, which is a Rune core. So it the BACCH SP can see my Rune core and can control it through Rune with with the BACCH. Now the next input heading down is there is a, and we'll get to this later on. It's up the very end of the page up here, this very last page, and that is for recording with the microphone. So in-ear recording, so you can actually record with this machine as well, and talk about that a little bit later. And then obviously test signals down there as well. So you can set up your test signals through the inputs down and just selecting that one there. But at this point, that's where we're situated there for Streamer for the way I've got the unit set up. So over here is on the output. Now you can select multiple outputs here, and in this instance we are in digital out or analog out via XLR. So because I am using the DAC in the BACCH, I am essentially that is the same output. So I am coming out of the BACCH via analog output through the XLR cables. So that's the correct one there to use. But you've also got analog out through TRS, which are the phone jacks. You've got analog out, which is the third option, which is through RCA, and then headphone connection in the back of the BACCH as well, for people that are in apartments or people that are in want to listen late at night and family may be asleep. Well, that is option, and haven't explored that yet, and there's more detail there which I may not have got completely across, but essentially that's what happens there with that. So if we move over to the next one, we've got the BACCH purifier. So this page is where we record, and we can record on this particular unit up to 7 different measurements and assign them to 1, 2, 3, up to 7 bins in here, which is where the measurements are stored. So we just select the measurement we might like to store in, and then we go into make a filter, and we can assign that filter to whatever bin we want to put it in along here. And then obviously there is the bypass. Hang on, where are we? So there, that lights up the second bin there, as you can see, and then there we would be in the bypass mode, so that we're just listening to whatever we're playing through the BACCH using its DAC to convert the digital to analog signal, but with no digital manipulation or no filtering done whatsoever. And then we might like to pick whatever filter. So we might like to have, we might have one without head tracking and another one with head tracking, and we can do that in 2 different bins here. And then on the third one, our partner might have done an in-ear measurement, and she or whatever the case may be, or a friend who's over regularly might be in the third bin. So we just activate the third one for that person, and so on and so forth. And that's how that can be arranged here. You've also got head tracking in here, so you can see now. You can't see me, but as I move my head from side to side, you can see, that it's picking up what's going on with my head here. It's also a master mute volume up there to be able to, as you can see, to be able to turn the that just literally mutes anything if a phone call comes through or something like that happens. You're able to deal with that. I can turn the head tracking off at the moment. So then you've got a digital volume control here, and it steps up, I believe, in 0.1 dB cycles. You can change that up in the corner here to 0.5 dB increments over here. If you press that one, and then there is a reset back to 0 dB by the push of a single button there. So that's also very handy to have if you don't have a preamp, or you're just running this system through powered active speakers. If that's the case, then this will work as a preamplifier as well. So that's essentially the majority of what's on that page. So the next page is test signals. So we can create pulses, we can create pink noise, obviously. And it'll give us a measurement in the frequencies to which we are doing that in. It's essentially just a setting up of that part of the system and doing test testing to see what's actually going on. A sine wave test can be done as well to measure things. And the next page over, which is quite an important page, and it is the making of a filter. So on this particular page, again, we've got our 7 bins along here. If we were going to make a measurement and we wanted to assign it to a bin, let's just say we might like to assign it to bin 3 there. So we highlight bin 3. We then arm the system, and then we would have the microphones in our ears and ready to go on this side by plugging those in. And I can talk to you about those a little bit further along, about how all that is set up. And we might actually do a measurement, and I'll film it so you can see the sequencing and the process that goes along. And then obviously down here we press fire, and then that process will take its course. So we'll do a video on this, and I'll actually show you. I'll film a measurement. We'll do a measurement in the room, and I'll show you and step you through this page so that you can you understand exactly how that works. Rather than going into too much more detail, you obviously, if you're doing it with head tracking, as you can see there, you would highlight with head tracking, and then another great one to use is the pause. So you can pause the position. So before you get into the next position, you'll get that circle that says go just beside it here. That will flash. And then you just press that go circle, and then the next measurement is taken. So it gives you an opportunity to get into the right position, the far left, the far right, and the center position before you actually it does the frequency sweep and it does the recording. So they are the basics on this page, and I mean, I'm being very basic here. I'll talk to you further about this and literally show you a measurement. I'll film a measurement as it happens, and you'll be able to see the sequencing and the process behind how that works. The next one over is the equalizer. So we can literally play around with frequency response here. We can retard or attenuate frequency responses, and as you can see, the higher we push some of these things up, there is a dynamic range loss due to equalization. And you can actually see, if I see that we're at 7.3 dB of dynamic range loss. So the reason that Edgar's done this way is, if we flatten that back off again, so there's a button down the bottom there to flatten the response, and there's 5 different settings along the bottom here, presets, so we can set a frequency response, and I don't know what so there's a couple that I've got in the system at the moment, that I've put in, that I've saved by pressing the save button up here. And when we press that button, we save whatever frequency adjustments we make on the fly. We just save them, and then the current banding will be saved in the memory in whatever bin we plot that to be in. And then it's just a very easy button there which flattens the frequency response and gives us a dead flat response again. So this is all very much adjustable. You can activate the frequency response by literally pushing the activate button up the top here, and I'll press it again, and then when it's not highlighted, it's not activated. So it means whatever frequency response is, was in the system, if you like, if I activate it, then it's in play. And then if I press that button again and deactivate it, essentially, or it's not highlighted, activate is not highlighted, then we've essentially got a flat response again. So yeah, that's what's happening with the EQ. It's quite a detailed EQ, 20 hertz all the way up to 20k, and literally in quite lovely increments across the frequency spectrum there to get some really good adjustment in the room if we so desire to have it. So that's also really good. We've the next page that we have here is the crossover page. So we can literally have a bypass essentially through the center here, which is no crossover in play at all, and that is highlighted there. we can have a 2-band, so we can have a low frequency and a high frequency separate amplification and crossover. So in doing this, essentially we can have analog output 3 covering, and it is all written there in small print, so you can see which output and input are assigned to these through the crossover process. So you've got low frequency goes into analog output 3, and if you look over there, you'll see once it focuses in, high frequency in the 2-band is assigned to analog output 1 and digital out. So that is your high frequency. So if you go down to a 3-band equalizer, then that's why we have those 3 analog inputs. This was talking about why that is the case. So you've got the low frequency again is in analog output 3. We've got the mid range in analog output 2 and the high frequency in analog output 1. So that is the instance that we have there for a 3-band crossover arrangement. And then we have a Sanders crossover for Sanders speakers. Now, Edgar's put this one in here because, and it's a preset arrangement for Sanders speakers, and that is already locked in. So everything is, he's put a preset in there for anybody with that particular speaker brand. He was talking to me about that, and there's a specific one that really does work, and it's something you can always try if you wish to go down that road and see what it sounds like. But it's specifically designed for those particular speakers. So again, a very basic setup of what's going on here, and all of this is what I've committed to memory after speaking to him, and I may have a few things slightly adrift here, but again, all of this will be gone through with Edgar. He will step you through the whole process, and you'll be able to understand it all very, very clearly. He's a great teacher. So the next page we have here is the advanced page. Now this is where all the really interesting stuff happens on this particular page. As far as, look, this is something that most people won't ever really need to do very much with. It really is just a basic setup. So that the system has a basic setup. Edgar will go through and get it all running correctly for you, and then he will refer you to this page and explain everything on this page and what's actually happening in here, and how it applies to essentially, there's obviously the master clock settings in here. There's a way to set this up so that you can use it as a slave clock, as a word clock, how to use it as a digital input, or use the internal clock that's in the unit, which is how I've got it set up at the moment, and it's sampling at 96 kilohertz when it's using its internal clock. And there's just relaunch and resync buttons down here. There's a myriad of different settings here that Edgar will go through with you and explain everything that he has done on this page. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, other than just literally to show you what this all looks like, for it all to be explained to you very, very clearly with the man who invented it himself, Edgar. The next page is the shutdown page. So again, that's fairly self-explanatory. You literally just hit the shutdown the BACCH SP, and that will send a signal back to the machine and turn the machine off, put it into standby mode. This next one is obviously head tracking. Now I'm wobbling my head around here, and you can see off camera, and you can see exactly that it's tracking my head and where my head is and what my head's doing. When I turn my head from side to side, it literally is able to follow my head very, very quickly, which is fantastic. So this is a simple thing to set up, and once the camera's in place, which I'll talk to you and show you the camera side of things as we go along, and where Edgar believes that 0.75 of a metre is the perfect set up for the head tracking. So that's where he suggests we set it up, and that's exactly what I've done in my case here. So again, this just goes into the setting up of tracking your head, and from here you can also through this go button that you see up there, you're able to track, and this is where Edgar prefers you to be when you're about to do a measurement, because then you can see where your head is in the in the frame here, and then that go button will light up when it's ready to take the next measurement. And then when you push that, if you've got the pause before it takes a measurement on, it will then do the next measurement to make sure your head's tracked correctly and that you're in the right spot there. So that's how when we went through and did a measurement, that's how Edgar ran through it with me. And then in here, this is the recording page. So this is where you can actually do some recordings and play them back that that you might do from your in-ear when you've got the microphone set up in ear. So you can actually do your own binaural recordings essentially with this machine. And I haven't played with this yet. That pretty much takes us through the very, very basic outline of what's on the iPad. I'll go into more detail about this as we move into we actually record a filter. So that'll be the next video. I'll talk you through that, and we'll go through that process of doing a recording, so you can see how I do it, exactly what's happening in the room, and you'll see a recording being done, and you'll see what's happening on the page, and I'll go through the process that Edgar took me through about the best pages to be on when doing that recording. So anyway, that I guess hopefully gives you some basic outline around the iPad here, and how it works and what it does. This is the control center for the BACCH SP, and you'll be able to essentially control everything you need to control from this unit, from the seat where you're listening to your system through. There is also a downloadable manual for the BACCH SP for all of the BACCH units, so you're able to download that manual, and it's a very detailed manual, and it goes literally through step by step, and explains everything in the unit, what everything does, how everything is set up. It goes through all the detail that you would ever need to refer back to. So that is certainly worth downloading, and is readily available to download for anybody can literally do that and have a look at it at any stage they like. So anyway, that sort of gives us a wrap up, or you guys a wrap up on what happens on the iPad. And the next thing we'll do is that we'll do an in-room measurement, and I'll walk you through that and show you exactly what I'm doing and how all that happens. You'll hear the sweeps in the room, a seated position in the middle, then a seated position over to the right, and a seated position where you swing over to the left. You do your 3 measurements with the microphones in your ear. Then you've made the measurement, your measurement in your ear with your ear pinner, all accounted for with the microphones that are supplied with the unit. And then that process is uploaded to the BACCH, and you have an in-room measurement, an in-ear measurement. So stay tuned. Next episode will be, as I say, we'll do a measurement next, and then we'll keep stepping through this bit by bit by bit until we go through everything there is to learn. This is only a basic run through. A more detailed run through is probably not. It just gives you a bit of a feeling for the unit. You'll hear the commands are told to you through your speakers, where to position your head. It's literally just a matter of following orders, and the rest looks after itself, and pressing the go button every time you're ready for a measurement to be done. Okay, so in this video we're going to do a measurement. We're going to, oops, I've turned it off. We're going to use the BACCH SP. We're going to take a measurement, and I'll show you the process of taking that measurement in the room. We will step through the screen. So I'll turn the camera around and face it on the screen so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. You'll be able to hear the sweep noises and really just to show you and go through that aspect of the arrangement here that Edgar has designed into the BACCH. So let's turn the camera around, let's get set up, and I'll walk you through it and explain everything to you. Okay, so here is the microphone, the set of earplugs and the microphone setup. These are really very sensitive microphones, and so you see in there's a DIN arrangement. You also get, this is the other end of an extension lead that runs to the back of the BACCH, and it has the two XLR inputs for left and right on the other end of this cable. So this essentially goes in here and locks in like so. That then means we have a connection to the unit for the microphones. And I'll give you a very close look at the microphones. They are tiny. There we go. Or if you can see that, if it gets into focus or not. Yep, so that's what they are. Now, the actual microphone part itself, believe it or not, is just that. That is the microphone right there. And these are the little earplugs. So they are designed, let me just pop my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing here. They are designed, there's a tiny little slit in the bottom of one of these little earplugs, and you literally sit that back section there into the plug, and that is the arrangement there. So we've got a left and a right, and they're designated by virtue of that little red collar there going to the right here, and the other side going to the left. They have a little clip arrangement here to go onto your jumper so that you actually don't have any pressure on the wires as they connect into your ears. So that's the microphone set up there. We've seen that. We'll now go to setting the camera up in the other direction, and I'll show you the screen and show you that process of what we do there. Okay, everybody. Well, here we go. The microphones are in my ear. You can see that I have the plug connected to my jacket, so there's nothing pulling. So hopefully I can do this and you can actually see the microphones placed in my ear canal there like that. Hopefully I can't see if I'm shooting that correctly or not, but hopefully you can see again that microphone is in place there and they are in my ears. So that is that stage. We'll now turn the camera onto the screen and we'll do a measurement. Okay, so here we are. We've got microphones in ear, which you can't see because I've got the camera here, but let's open up the iPad and it'll come to life. So the first thing we want to do is press OSC down here in this corner. That'll bring us up to the first page on the settings page here, and obviously we've selected and saved the presets in here for what I'm doing with the system. So the next thing we want to do is go over to, and you'll see up there where it says make a filter. So if we press on make a filter, we get the red screen for making a filter. First thing we should do in this sequence is obviously go over to the test. See where it says test there? And from that test position, we want to arm the system. So when we arm the system, suddenly we see level now where the microphones in my ears are picking up my voice. So that confirms to us that we have two microphones, the left and the right microphone, working correctly and hearing my voice whilst they're in my ears. So from this position, we're armed. The next thing we will do is press fire down the bottom here, and the system will then go through and do a test to make sure that we get a green light here for good, because we can be too high and too low, but we need to be in the good setting. So let's fire, and you'll hear the system do a sweep and take a measurement. And as you can see, we have the good light coming up there. That's what we want to see. Now, if we were too high, we turn our preamplifier down. If we were too low, we turn our preamplifier up to get to a position. And we can just keep testing until we get a good light coming up there, which means the system is happy with what it's hearing. So the next thing we want to do, once we've tested that we've got a good system volume here, is we select a bin along here that we want to store the measurement in. So in this instance, we'll pick bin 2, and that lights up. Then from there, we press arm to arm the system again. Immediately we see level, so we know the microphones are working correctly. We're going to do this setting with head tracking. So we press head tracking there, and you can see the head tracking is on, and we press pause. So what that does is that will pause before each position is set. So once we're into that position there, we then will get a pause, and this go light, this go light here will start flashing between each of the settings that we need to do. So in this position, we press fire.
Please place head in center position and look straight.
And you'll notice that you can see that flashing light. Now I at this point head over to head tracking now, just to make sure that when I move my head around, it's following the system. I still see that go light, it's still on this page. So this is a good page to be on. So if I sit this system down here, you can see what's going on. My head is clearly being tracked. I'm just checking to make sure. And then, so my head, I'm meant to be sitting in the direct straight position and looking up. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to press the fire button here, or the go button.
Please place head in extreme left position.
So in that instance now you can see that I'm going to head, when I place my head over to the left. And remember, you can actually see on the crosshairs that where I've moved over to the left. And then you'll see that the go button is ready to go when I'm ready in that position. So I will hit that again now.
Please place head in extreme right position.
So you can see now that I've moved over to the right position by virtue of what's happening here on the crosshairs. And the light is, so the system is paused at the moment until I press the go button. And that's what that pressing the pause between settings allows us to do.
BACCH measurements done. Thank you.
Okay, so we've completed the measurements. I can now very, very gently pull the microphone and earplugs out of my ear, being very gentle with this. These are very sensitive pieces of equipment. Unplug the clip off my ear, place the microphones safely down somewhere, and as you can see, from that was the process. So that is the complete process for taking the measurements in the room here. Center position, full left position, full right position in the movement that you would have in the chair, and that's essentially the process complete. If we now go back to the measurement, you can see that on the screen here we have those measurements are locked into bin number 2, and everything is correct on the screen, and we're all happy there. So if we go over to the BACCH purifier page, which is the second page in here, you'll see that the second bin is lit up, and we are literally ready to go. We can press head tracking there, and then there's a button just there for head tracking, and then that will allow us to, and I can assure you, when I move my head from left to right like this, you can probably see what's happening. I've got to be able to do this in such a way that it doesn't. If I hide my head with the iPad, the camera can't loses track of my head. But in this position, when I move my head from side to side, that little cursor's moving backwards and forwards, and it's very, very quick. It's tracking my head at a very, very fast pace. So that all looks really good now. We're in position to literally go into for instance, into Rune and start playing music. And that is it. The system is set. The filter is uploaded to the BACCH SP, and the measurement in ear in this room is complete, and we are literally ready. Thanks everybody for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you a bit of a rough guide as to how the measurements are done and the screens you go into to do those measurements. As I said, and I've said in videos before now, and I'll reiterate again, Edgar will go through this process with you when he does the walkthrough with you if you purchase one of these components from him, and he'll do a measurement in your room. He can actually look at all the measurements from your room in real time from wherever he is around the world, and in this case generally he'll be in New Jersey, and he'll be able to have a look and see what your room measures like, and tell you in real time once that signal is uploaded to their main system back in New Jersey. So that gives you a bit of an idea. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this kind of stuff and you're enjoying this series on the BACCH, please give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps the channel grow, and that helps me very much, and I greatly appreciate it. So until we talk again, bye for now.